Two of my clients have been going through breakups, and it's got me thinking about breakups and heartbreak and grief. I've gone through a number of breakups in my life, and they're always rough ass experiences. Like, even the ones that I've chosen, that I've been okay with, they're still so painful. And I feel like it's because grief is complex. I think whenever we think about grief, we tend to, it's almost like gate kept, right? It's only reserved for when someone physically dies and is no longer in this realm. And that's when we are allowed to grieve. But we can grieve anything. And grief to me is the experience of adjusting to life without a thing, right? So if you had a job that you experience a certain level of security with and you no longer have it, even if you have a new job, that old job still deserves a space to be grieved, right? Friends can leave your life. Breakups are clearly one. Um, I've even used an example as simple as like when the day ends and you weren't ready to have, ready for the day to end and you want to still hang out with your friends and now that moment is gone, never to be had again, right? And I feel like that's uncomfortable. It's really hard as beings that are ephemeral and, our soul is eternal. Then what is grief, right? It's really complex, actually. Very, very heartbreaking to deal with. Um, and I think obviously there's a lot of juice, a lot of powerful, amazing juice in breakups. I think we get to learn a lot about ourselves, get to learn about what we want, get to like really reflect on our patterns of like relationship and existence, what was working, what was not working, our tendencies, were we living in line with our values, what do we really want? That seems to come back a lot. And also I think the process of breakup, like the healing process, the mending process with oneself, is such an opportunity to actually become better, kinder, gentler, softer, more attentive, and more present friends to ourselves. Because there's a bunch of emotions that come up with grief, right? Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about the five stages of grief, which are not stages that linearly we move through. Five stages of grief being denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But it's not like you move boom, boom, boom through each one. It's actually kind of more of a framework to understand the different emotions that arise in the grieving experience and how you can kind of circle and cycle through all of them, right? Because, for instance, I feel like when someone dies, it's actually pretty, especially if you've had the funeral, seeing them, there's an acceptance that comes to that. Like, they are here. But maybe there's a denial at the same time, right? Of like, well, maybe they're just sleeping. That's kind of what it looks like. But you can also, you see what I'm saying? You can accept that it's occurred, but also still go through the other feelings. And I think it's similar with a breakup. Even when we know that something is good for us and this ending is complete and it makes sense, and we can accept that, it doesn't mean that we won't also go through feelings months down the line, years down the line, right? It's like time doesn't matter in the scope of healing sometimes. Of course, like I personally don't believe that time heals all wounds. I think what we do in our intentionality in our time, with our time, is what helps to heal things. Because if you don't talk about shit and you just distracting yourself for years after a breakup, I mean, that's not necessarily going to help you heal, right? Ignoring the issue doesn't help you heal. Um, but yeah, just thinking about breakups as an opportunity to be kinder to ourselves has been really helpful for me. Um, and like just listening to myself when I have these feelings and not push them down or shame myself for them or judge them. But being able to like really be like, okay, what would I want a friend to say to me? Because ultimately I am my own friend, right? And what do I want to say to me? What do I need to be reminded of in this moment? How do I want to be held in this moment? Of course, community care is also very important. I'm not saying just fend for yourself and don't be with your community. And also, it's a really wonderful opportunity to be kind to ourselves too. As you know, I'm all about that kindness and softness to the self. So any opportunity I get to practice that, I'm gonna do it. And usually, it's in the moments that we're struggling the most and feeling heartbreak and feeling lost and feeling uncertain, feeling unwanted, that we need that kind of softness and care for ourselves. And I think it is important to come to the self and really provide that reassurance and do your best to, and again, get the support that you need. However, if you keep going outside for reassurance and for all that validation from outside of you, you see how that's like a crazy making cycle, because you always looking out there for somebody to prove your worth to you and hold you carefully and love you externally. When do you get to feel that by yourself? When do you get to tell yourself and to prove to yourself and know truly that you are worthy and that you deserve love and that you can actually love yourself too? You know, I'm not here for the either or. I think both and. And I think a lot of us tend to neglect the internal love and caring for ourselves and seek outside validation and assurance that we are worthy. Like we kind of look to the world outside and go, okay, check. Yeah, so I'm good because everybody thinks I'm good. But do we think we're good? You know, are you a good friend to yourself? That's that's always the question I'm asking myself. Am I being a good friend to myself? Right? And a good friend to myself doesn't mean enabling behavior, and it doesn't mean I was just thinking about the friend who'd be like, yeah, let's go ride on them. No, no. Good friend to myself has boundaries, right? It holds me carefully. It also says, you know, we've been here in this room for a little bit too long. Let's go outside. You know, we've been alone for a little bit too long. Let's go get lunch with a friend. Let's go to the park and be around other people. Let's go work out, right? So, those are my thoughts for the day. Happy healing to those who are experiencing breakups, and I hope that you can be gentle with yourself, kind with yourself as you're going through transformation of your heart space. Yeah. Shitty, sucky, aggy ass work. And also, you'll get through the other side, hopefully, with more love for yourself and kindness.